Hi, CoCo. We're gonna continue on the reading, but this time we're gonna do the questions. And just to make you see, we're still reading the Patience book. And on this book, we're going to continue reading questions about patience. Okay. Okay. What is there in your relationship which causes you to become impatient with others? I'm going to reread that question. What is there in your relationship which causes you to become impatient with others? I answered myself, troubles that make us have battles from our own pain and hurts. Lack of motivation in communication, finding honesty, truthfulness, and sincerity with wisdom that might bring peace and calamity in a moment of anxiousness. Okay. You might have a different answer, so I'm going to continue reading on the second question, number 2. Question number 2. Okay, this portion begins with the well-known exchange between Peter and the Lord. How many times shall I forgive? Is the question. How does forgiveness and patience interrelate? I answered, many times, to an extent where communication about the forgiveness that relates to understanding the situation and clarifying to why I am apologizing and why I should be forgiven. And at the bottom I wrote, that is going to be okay with time. That, for instance, that with time, forgiveness and patience is gonna take time. Okay, I'm gonna read question number 3. In this chapter, verse 15 through 17 speaks of another phase of relationships, but it seems as though the situation deals with a fellow Christian. Jesus said, if your brother sins against you, Peter asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Why do you think this emphasis is so pointed toward the relationship with other Christians? To be honest, my question for that, I don't have a truthful question. I don't have an answer for that one, for that question number 3. But I I wrote, because trying to forgive every time means getting hurt over and over, and you don't put an end to the pain, because some believe and some don't, because of the rules that can be strictly. To be honest, that question doesn't seem kind of correct for me, but I just answered because I thought I could have knew the answer, and I didn't understand the question, but I'm gonna keep on continuing reading because this is so helpful for you, and this is helping you a lot with God. What did the first servant ask for from the king? Patience. Why do you think he didn't treat his fellow servant like he wanted to be treated? For the first question, I answered. I'm going to reread the question. What did the first servant ask for from the king? I answered, to forgive him from his debt, because the servant owed him 100 pence. And for the second question, I answered. Let me reread the question over again. Why do you think he didn't treat his fellow servant like he wanted to be treated? I said, because he was human, because the servant was human and God wasn't real and God was invisible. That's what I answered, because I felt like that's why the 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 Lord forgave the servant from his debt, and that's why the servant was like, okay, I am glad that you forgive me, so everything is okay. But then when the servant went to the other servant and he told them, you owe me, he he actually became mad and angry, because he was like, I want my money now. But he was able to, be angry at this human or servant, because he said he's able to, I to be honest don't understand quite of the question and how to answer it rightly. But for my answer, I put, because he was human and he wasn't invincible. That's what I put, because I think that Jesus the Lord forgave that servant his debt, because that servant like the people, he was able to say to the Lord, oh my goodness, this is a hard question to answer. But I just actually want to get to the point to this, is about the Lord saying, okay, I forgive you, and it's okay. But as a human, he wasn't able to do it, because he was like, I'm human and I want my money, and and because I can't, even though he didn't even think of how the Lord treated him, because the Lord did treated him and said, okay, I forgive your debts, you're forgiven, you don't have to pay me. And because of that, the servant didn't do the same thing to the human, because I just personally feel like he wasn't invisible, and I feel like the Lord was invisible, so he was able to what's the right word to say, he was able to get away with it, because he wasn't afraid of the Lord. I don't know. I don't know that question. Okay, that question is out of answer. Okay. He was having trouble. Okay. Okay. On the question number 5. Is there to be a difference in the way we treat a brother or sister or fellow worker than we shall treat a non-Christian? Please explain. I don't even know. I don't even want to answer this question. But I answered. I wouldn't know the correct answer, but I would say that even when he owed the Lord told him that he forgave him the debt, because he would have patience to understand the debt. Okay. I'm gonna reread this question for myself. I wouldn't know the correct answer. Is there to be a difference in the way we treat a brother or sister or fellow worker than we shall treat a non-Christian? I wouldn't know the correct answer, but I will say that even when he owed the Lord told him that he forgave him the debt, because he would have patience to understanding that he couldn't pay the debt. Okay, question number 6. Moving on to question number 6. Okay, do you think this story really happened, or is it simply a parable to convey this truth? I don't think it really happened, because I didn't read the parable in the Bible first, so I didn't believe it in the moment. I read the New James Version, but I didn't quite believe it. Yeah, I actually was doing the the questions, and without knowing what I was reading, I lost myself in the reading. So I just didn't know the answers to say that I do believe it. But in the moment, the first time when I answered this question, I was like, no, I don't believe it. you know. Okay. How was the first servant's plea for patience rewarded? He was forgiven and his debt was paid. That's question number 7. Okay, number 8. Okay. Why don't you think he was willing to be patient with his fellow servants and wait for the repayment? I answered, because he wanted the money immediately and he was impatient. Okay, question number 9. Did you notice that the interaction between these two servants was observed by other servants? I answered yes. And I also answer witnesses to observe how the Lord. Okay, that's a different. That's a. Okay, I'm reading fast, but I'm gonna reread that question number 9. Did you notice that the interaction between these two servants was observed by other servants? I answered yes. And there's another question into that question number 9. Why were his actions causing such great distress? I answered, witness to observe how the Lord had treated him, because the Lord forgave his debt and the way he treated him, he wanted the servant to treat him the way he was treated. Question number 10. Breathe, CoCo. Breathe. Are you bothered when you see such injustices and impatience done to others? I answered, sometimes. What can you do? There's another question to question number 10. What can you do about such actions? I answered, I can say yes to injustices. Wait, what can you do about such? Remember, we're just reading to you and we're just trying to work on how you're gonna do a better job out of this, okay? What can you do about such actions? I said, I can say yes to injustices because I actually don't know the answer. I don't know what I was trying to answer. But I wrote also, remember the word grace, but the feeling of I can do payments. I didn't know grace, but I knew that I can do payments. For instance, my examples there, I don't know English very well, but I actually tried to do an example of, like, for instance, if the servant was able to, let's say, okay, so the servant wanted the other servant to pay his debt, and before he put him into jail, he would told that servant, okay, I won't put you in jail, but can you do payments and I will be able to have patience with you. And that was my kind of example that I was trying to do here. I am so bad at trying to do an example. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But that's what I wanted to refer to the example, but I wasn't able to do that example rightly, but thankfully I just did it. Okay. All right. Question number 11. In the light of verse 35, how important it is that we treat others with patience. I read verse 35 as I rewrote what was in verse 35. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not everyone his brother their trespasses. I wrote under it another example for me to understand it, because I wasn't able to understand it myself. So I kind of rewrote the verse 35. I simply said, not every sin was forgivable. Some had consequences. To be honest, at this moment, I don't even understand that quote. Okay, what does it mean to forgive from the heart? I answered. We're on question number 12. What does it mean to forgive from the heart? I responded, when you're ready to forgive from the heart, all is okay. And when you can't forgive from the heart, all is trouble. I put CoCo, unknown voice, and an unknown voice, because I actually heard it whispered. Okay, I think we're going to question number 13. And they had a little assignment here. Think of someone to whom you have acted with impatience. I answered, everybody, and myself, and God. And that actually is true. Okay, what are the steps you can take to extend forgiveness as well as patience to mend that relationship? I responded, I actually answered, talking about how you feel hurt, loved, cared, enjoyed, entrusted, sad, explanated of how can be better at circumstances when trying to fix things with each other. For instance, having the confidence to talk about your feelings of how things can better work, or how things couldn't work because of such problems, or joyfulness that for instance, either if you had a good day, of course you're gonna talk about that good day. But if you had a bad day until that good day, you wouldn't talk about that good day, because that bad day made it bad on that good day. And I said, for my let me do another example, because trying to do the writing is so hard and difficult. But for an example, if I okay, so we're talking about that servant. If I was that servant, I will say, servant, you owe me money. And that servant will be, my goodness, okay, let me do the other part of that servant. Okay. It would be like this. Servant, you owe me money. Okay, I'll be, yes, I know I owe you money, but can I have a time to pay you money into payments? And it would be as I don't have all the money, but can I have time for to pay in payments? And I think that would be understandable from the other person, and the other person will be, wait, okay, so you're saying that you can pay me in payments, and the other servant will be like, yes, I can pay you in servants. But the other servant's like, okay, hold on, wait, so okay, then I think we can work into that situation. If you said that you can pay me in payments, then what the heck? Why not? Let me allow you to pay me in payments. So I actually would say that that'll be okay. So you understand me now? And then the person will, and the other servant will be like, yeah, I understand you now, because you understand me too, that I do need the money in payments. I need the money, but in payments you can't. But you can do the payments, and you can still give me my money. You know. So that's what. Oh my goodness, I ran out of breath. Okay, so that's why I can do that example. But that questions that answers my question. That answers that question actually. I'm so horrible at doing grammar and literacy. Literacy, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But yes, that's what the example can be of. I'm gonna reread that last question. Question number 14. What are the steps you can take to extend forgiveness as well as patience to mend that relationship? And what lastly I said actually kind of answered my example and answer. Patience in action. Okay, we're gonna do the final reading. Okay, final reading. It's called Patience in Actions, and it has a couple of questions. Have you ever been in a situation, in a strange place, where you are required to look for road signs as well as study a map to decipher where you are going? I'm going to continue on question number 2 because there's another question in here. Did you drive slower than some of the native drivers? Did they honk at you, shake a fist, or worse, yell at you because you were going too slow? That's another question. Okay. Sometimes the going in the Christian life can be slow because we are entering into a new territory. If we have walked down a particular valley and someone else is going through the same kind of test or trial, sorry, I'm just remembering someone that's reminded me of me that I'm being goofy. Okay, why can't we? Okay, let me reread that highlighted sentence. If we have walked down a particular valley and someone else is going through the same kind of test or trial, why can't we be more patient with them? It works both ways. Sometimes, perhaps too often, our responses to others are not as wonderful and godly as they should be. The Christian walk takes time to take care of others. It doesn't mean that we are not making progress, but we do it deliberately. Okay, so I answer to the question of if we walk down a particular valley and someone else is going through the same kind of test and trial, why can't we be more patient with them? At the bottom, I answer, because trying to communicate it in a calmly or loving and not offensive way can be a struggle. I'm going to reread that again. Because trying to communicate it calmly in a loving way or not offensive way can be a struggle. Alright, and that finishes the reading. But there's also a prayer over here. And it says, Teach me, Lord, to wait. That's the title. Lord, to wait down on my knees, till in your own good time you answer my pleas. Teach me not to rely on what others do, because then I feel forced down, but to wait in prayer for an answer from you. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Teach me, Lord, teach me, Lord, to wait. Stuart Hamblin. And again, CoCo, we're still reading this patient book from Robert Strand. That's the author who wrote this book. It's based on the nine fruits of the Spirit. And the rest I'm going to leave to you. Okay? Good night, because it's actually getting dark. Well, you have a good day, CoCo. Bye.